Earlier today, we caught up with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete to talk about all things recruiting in the state of Texas, including major headlines from all corners of this Lone Star State. Here is This Week in Recruiting, presented by Chicken Express here on Texas Football Today. I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. And this is This Week
in Recruiting.
It's This Week in Recruiting, presented by Chicken Express with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at NextLevelD1. Powers, there are pandemics and there are hurricanes and there's all sorts of stuff. Are you okay?
I'm doing great. Tell you what, recruiting hasn't slowed down one. The last 2 weeks full of action, and you've actually seen some major commits come off the board. Our notebooks have been chock full of major players going to major universities the last 2 weeks. So that's good news on the recruiting front.
It has been absolutely wild on the recruiting side. Start with our prospect on the rise. Our prospect on the rise is Frisco Lebanon Trail 2021 wide receiver Drew Donley. He has committed to Ole Miss. He's heading to the SEC. This is a guy who is a 3-star according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football, one of the very fastest prospects in the state. Powers, what kind of player is Ole Miss getting in wide receiver Drew Donley?
Well, first off, they're getting a player who has the pedigree of, his father played in the NFL for the Dallas Cowboys. At one point, he was the all-time leading receiver at Ohio State, so that's really saying something. So he kind of understands what it takes to be successful at the next level and beyond. One thing that I love about Drew Donley has been his continued development from the time that he stepped on the field last season as a junior for Frisco Lebanon Trail until now. You see him right here on tape, and he's running right past people. He's got the speed. He's got unquestioned speed. As a matter of fact, he could be in the argument to be the state's fastest prospect. He's definitely one of the top 5. And now he's starting to put everything together on the field, in the weight room. It's really flipped on for him, the football mentality side of things. So he's a guy who I think when people have the chance to see him in person, or when his final senior highlight tape is out, he could be one of these guys who you say is a 3-star now, but he could get into the mix to jump up into that 4-star range because of everything that he brings to the table. Ole Miss did a fantastic job of identifying him early, got his commitment. They were the first P5 school to offer him. He had about 25 other offers or 20 other offers, so he had no shortage of offers on his list, but Ole Miss was the school that got the ball rolling on the P5 level, and it's paid dividends.
He is certainly a name to keep an eye on. Frisco, of course, a very talent-rich area of the state. And Drew Donley, the Lebanon Trail wide receiver, committed now to Ole Miss. Let's get to our commit of the week, or as we call it, as the Texas quarterback room turns. We spent a lot of last week talking about the shakeup in the Texas quarterback room as they get a commitment from Quinn Ewers, and then they get a decommitment from Katie Tompkins, quarterback Jalen Milroe. Well, now we're going to Austin High. As a local kid, Austin High 2021 quarterback Charles Wright has flipped his commitment from Iowa State to Texas. We talked a little bit about are these things connected? It seems like, and again, this is just me recruiting dum-dum, it seems like suddenly Texas had a need for a 2021 quarterback, and they found a pretty good one in their backyard.
Yeah, I think Texas fans should be really excited about this quarterback commitment. I went back through and watched a lot of tape on him again last night in preparation for the show, and the thing that really jumps out to me is his quick trigger. He's one of these guys who's been really impressive on the 7-on-7 and camp circuit. He's always one of the top performers in all of those games, and I think that shows through also when he puts the pads on. He recognizes really quickly. He's able to assess the defense really fast and process that really fast to recognize the coverages. And you know what? Texas has a tremendous quarterback room. They signed Hudson Card. They have a great athletic quarterback in Jaquindon Jackson that they also signed last year. And Charles Wright brings a different dynamic to both of those guys. He's a little bit different than both of them. I would actually probably put him more in the Sam Ehlinger mold as far as how he leads a team and what he kind of does under center. But he's a little bit different player as a quarterback. He's a pick-you-apart type of guy. He's one of these guys who is just going to throw the ball all around the field. He passed for 2,500 yards and 27 touchdowns last year. He did throw 13 interceptions, so that's something I'd like to see him clean up his senior season as he's entering and transitioning into college. But, hey, if this is your backup plan, it's a great backup plan to have. Plus, they stole him from a Big 12 rival.
Absolutely, and that's, I think, the biggest thing is that this is a flip. A guy who was already committed to Iowa State, by all accounts, really liked what Iowa State has, but the local squad came calling, and Charles Wright has flipped his commitment from Iowa State to Texas. We're talking with Greg Powers and Next Level Athlete here on This Week in Recruiting here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at hashtag TF Today. Let's get to our Underclassmen of the Week, and our Underclassmen of the Week is I think, more of a reflection of how much went on last week. That in a lot of other weeks, this would have been the lead story, but instead we're having to circle back a week later and clean it up. Shadow Creek's 2022 athlete Randy Masters. Randy Masters has committed to Baylor. He had offers from all over, including Auburn, LSU, TCU, Arizona State. This is a guy in Randy Masters who is a superstar there at Shadow Creek. And again, really nice pickup for Baylor and what suddenly feels like maybe a Shadow Creek to Waco pipeline.
Yeah, and, there's another big guy out there still on the list, and Terrence Cook. He's a 4-star linebacker in the class of 2021. So I know Baylor's a hot school on his list as well. But let's just turn the focus really quickly back to Randy Masters. And this first clip kind of shows you everything that you want to see about what he's bringing to the table. He blows right by defensive backs. And he's another one of these guys in that 6 foot, 175-pound range that could also flip over and play some defense. But I have to tell you, he really impressed me as a wide receiver. So, I mean, if he fits in there, why move him, I guess is the question. But he can certainly do some different things on the field. And he popped in that 6A D2 state title game in AT&T Stadium right there. I think he had a big catch in the first quarter on a post play that kind of started to break things open and kind of send a message across to the other side of the field that Shadow Creek was there and they were ready to compete for that championship. They ultimately ended up winning it. He's got good ball skills, and I think the best thing to like about him is his upside is very high. You still haven't seen his best play on the field. You can look right now and watch his highlight tape, and he's running down the field. He's going to continue to expand his route tree and get better at the little things. And Randy Masters is a huge pickup for Baylor, especially to start things going in a positive direction in the class of 2022.
Well, and let's just put it this way. This is a guy who's pretty clearly smart and cerebral and understands the game, because if you remember in the Shadow Creek Ryan title game, you remember that crazy punt return off the illegal kick that was just like nobody was doing anything and it got scooped up and run back for a touchdown. That was Randy Masters. So
we didn't even catch it as watching the game before he knew as a sophomore to go ahead and take it. We were like, oh, my God.
Right. So obviously between the ears, Randy Masters knows what he's doing too.
Cue up viral clip. That was a great play, and he showed his speed. He showed his speed on that play too, and that's kind of what makes him special. Starting off the notebook with Drew Donley, who's a very fast player, and then kind of segueing all the way to Baylor's 2022 commit and Randy Masters. He's another one of those guys who has the wheels that every college finds interesting. He had an offer from LSU, the national champion, so that kind of tells you what you need to know about him.
Let's wrap it all up with our Recruit of the Week. Our Recruit of the Week is a familiar name around recruiting circles. It is Garland Lakeview Centennial's 2021 running back, Camar Wheaton. He, of course, is the number 4 prospect in the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Hot 100. He is our number 1 ranked running back in the class of 2021, and he has named his top 3, and if he is to be believed, then he's not staying in state. 3 out-of-state offers in Alabama, LSU, and Oklahoma, the last one standing for the services of Camar Wheaton.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest shocker on this list is that Texas A&M or Texas didn't make the cut. I think that there were a lot of, or at least there were some, I don't want to say a lot, there were some people in both of those camps who thought Camar Wheaton would end up staying in state. I'm going to go ahead and, this isn't an official prediction, but I think that the Oklahoma Sooners are standing in a very good spot for Camar Wheaton. And here's why. I like to follow the breadcrumb, so to speak, when it comes to recruiting. And he announced his top 3 2 days after he took a visit to Oklahoma for what was a recruiting/commit gathering in Norman, that was organized by recruits. And they have some really good recruits on that list, including what would be 24/7 Sports #1 rated dual threat quarterback who was also on campus, and they have a really good recruiting class. So LSU and Alabama may have something to say by the time it's all done, but I have to think that the Sooners feel really good that this news came out just 48 hours after he left Norman's campus. So maybe the Sooners have the inside track. It's really close to home. And they've done a pretty good job, I think, in the last few years developing running backs and sending them to the league.
I would say so. And Camar Wheaton, of course, has all the skills to be the next big thing at the next level. He is Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at NextLevelD1. Find his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Powers, appreciate your time, my friend, and we will do it again next week.
See you then.